Reading from Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Book 2, Chapter 2, Text 67. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tatraikadā mahā-tejaḥ, puñja-rūpo dig-ambaraḥ, pāñca-ṣābdika-bālābhaḥ, ūrdhva-lokataḥ. Once someone arrived from a higher planet, his form surrounded by brilliant light. He was dressed by the directions only, which is a very beautiful Sanskrit way to say naked. Rupa, dig, whose form, dig, the directions, ambaraḥ, whose dress was only the directions. He appeared to be a 5 or 6-year-old boy. Purport: since the residents of Mahaloka frequently traveled to Janaloka, the two planets are practically a single system. The one difference between them is that on Janaloka, the fire inhalation from below is far enough away that there is no need to flee. Gopkumar knew all this from experience. The next world for him to see was Tapaloka. So now he is being introduced to its greatness, having never heard of Tapaloka. Gopa Kumar here refers to it as a higher planet. The unknown person who suddenly arrived from the higher regions looked like a small child and was naked. To go naked is normal for 5-year-old children, at least in the natural Vedic culture. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishnam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So greetings from New Jersey, where I'm experiencing the joy of boring life. Same thing, same time, every day, and not doing much traveling. So let's get this view to keep it in mind. And first book and second book, I wrote about something about that. That the first book presents the highest thing from the perspective of who are the highest people. And the second book presents what is the highest thing from the perspective of the place that facilitates the mood of the highest thing. But there's another way to look at the difference, and most of you have been following this, is the first book is more, the intellectual aspect. And Narada is, of course, devotional, but he's analyzing in each place, which is the people, the highest recipients, Bhagavat Kripa Sar, the highest recipients of the mercy of Krishna. And now, this is more from the platform of the sadhana. how you get to the highest place. It first begins with a faith. Brahmanda Brahmate Konya Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Pasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. We're traveling from universe to universe, from species of life to species of life, until by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, you get the seed of devotion. And what's the seed of devotion? It's that experience. It's an experience. Faith, remember I quote this Christian apologist, it seems to be a theme of mine, that faith is trust by experience. You get an experience. That generally becomes your faith. And then, of course, there's an intellectual aspect of faith. There's a philosophy that supports that experience and helps you access that experience and describes what the goal of that experience is. It's to mature till we feel the full energy of our connection with God, which is prema. In a general sense, prema is the energy between two people in a relationship. But really, when we talk about prema, pumarta, mahan, the greatest artha, the thing that has value, is when that experience is fully, that relationship is fully experienced. And what's the relationship? It's love. It's a ontological position of the reality, of the ultimate reality, rasa vaisaha. I like our theological conception. Prabhupada said it very, very simply. God must be enjoying. We're all trying to control so we can enjoy, right? So we can satisfy our desires. So really real irony that the ultimate reality, who is the supreme controller, is absolutely depressed and can't get his way. But what is his way? It describes in the Tatira Upanishads, what is his way? His way is rasa vaisaha. His way is experiencing rasa, this high pleasure. And without that, there's no ultimate satisfaction. That's why Narada chastised Vyasa, you haven't sufficiently glorified Krishna. To give people that experience of a connection with God. Of course, first you have to have some bandhagyan, you have to have a reasonable conception of who that absolute reality is, of which we have a relationship. In the 11th canto, it gives a verse which Jiva Goswami in the Bhakti Sandarbha begins to explain what bhakti is. I quote that very often. I have a repertoire of verses. I haven't learned verses in a while. But Bhayam Dutiya Beniveshi Tashat Ishat Upetasya Viparyo Smiti. Turning towards God in full understanding without the filter of the false ego that blocks that rays of relationship energy from us. We've turned from that. And therefore, we forget who we are and we adopt an illusory conception which fully covers the consciousness. And then from that illusion, that it's a nightmare of Bhayam Dvitiya, fear and duality arises from that. So the second book we're studying begins with faith. And how did he get that faith? How did the Mathura Brahmin get that faith? How did Gopa Kumar get that faith? From Guru. The mantra comes, and that becomes one's faith. Like Maharaj Pricket in the womb. The Brahmastra of Ashvatthama is about to kill him, and Krishna appears in the womb, and he parikshit, he examines that. He has an experience of that. And that leaves a hole in his heart, which is a faith that is what has to be filled for me to be fulfilled. That's what I need. And he searches for that. That's faith. And that's what happens to Gop Kumar. He has an experience. And that's what's carrying him. And then there are so many sub-themes. You know, I really feel it's my honor, my privilege. Every day, I think it's going to be for the rest of our lives because we're enjoying it so much. Eventually, I may be able to share some of the transcripts because the Ranjan Swami is enjoying some of our conversations so much. I think he's going to get them transcribed. But we're seeing so many different themes, genius conceptions that run through this whole story. But yesterday we had a very interesting discussion where, in a very Vada way, Vada is the highest form of discussion. It's where you enter discussion to find the truth, not to win. So it's a very beautiful thing. And it's not 100% resolved because as Gop Kumar is moving by the force of his mantra, and again, this diksha, sha means destroys unwanted things. It means divine knowledge and what manifests in his heart. And Jiva Goswami explains, Bhagavat Sarup Gyan. This is the form of God, which my heart needs to follow. That's another faith. It needs to follow, it needs to find, it needs to develop that relationship with. So that's carrying him. And God has a plan, as God has a plan for every single person. And it's a unique plan for every single person. Because how long have we been in the world? Wrap this around your brain. Since time immemorial. How long is that? We've been around forever. We've been around forever. And we're filled with so many misconceptions and different types of faith and different types of conceptions. So God is to purify us. And he gives us an experience in this life called the law of karma. And then when you surrender to him, he takes charge of that. My opinion, he generally lets it go because it was to bring us, purify us. And so God has a plan for him. It's an objective, and a plan begins with a goal, and the goal is back to Godhead. Muktir hidva yata rupam sarupena vivastita, to be situated in your sarup. Not just yata rupam, hitva yata, not just getting rid of this, but getting something else. There's a plan. Just like when Jayananda Prabhu passed away. Now, I was in Prabhupada's room when he came back to Vrindavan in May 17th, 1977. And he said he's going to leave the world. And he started speaking about Jayananda. So wow, this devotee made into his heart. And when I came to Krishna consciousness, he's one of the first devotees I saw in San Francisco. And I was immediately impressed with him. He was just at another level of sincerity, another level of maturity, another level of saintliness. Prabhupada started to talk about him. Sometimes you go off on tangents, you don't remember where to come back. But so anyway, Gop Kumar. So. And he's practicing, it's his mantra. His mantra is driving him forward. Anyway, so God has this plan. Oh yeah, so with Jayananda, Prabhupada said, if he had any material desire, he can enjoy for 10,000 years on the planets of the demigods, and then Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brasham. Then he can be born in the family of Yoginam Apisar Madgatena Taratmana Shutinam Shumatam Gehe Yoga of Brahmins, high-class Brahmins that are pursuing Krishna consciousness, or an aristocratic family. Very special. When I was in Russia, and I'd visit this family, a disciple, first initiated by Purnachan Prabhu, who passed away and took shelter of me and her husband. I'm very close to them, very close. And his great-grandfather was the head of the Bolshoi Ballet, and his grandfather was a famous author, and his father's a famous photographer, and he's a saintly Vaishnava. And his mother and the wife, that's Sundar Govinda, and the wife is a very beautiful kirtanier, a very intelligent person. So you see I put a picture on my WhatsApp of me sitting when she's playing the piano, Rachmaninoff's piano, gifted. So you can see Krishna has a plan. Who is she? Where is she coming from? It's not ordinary. So Prabhupada said, then takes birth in such a family. So there is a something of your desires getting fulfilled, some plan, you're a devotee, how that works. So somehow Gop Kumar, Krishna has this, he's got the goal and he's putting him through so many things. And the thing about him is, and you see what bhakti is, he's from Vrindavan. He gets a mantra and he begins to look for God, the Lord of that mantra. This is my Lord, and he becomes attached to it. But he leaves Vrindavan. He doesn't know it's there yet. And he goes back again and he leaves. He doesn't know it's there yet. So he's searching for it with his mantra. And the thing about wherever he goes, he's so simple. He's just not attracted. He becomes the king of the kingdom. He becomes the king of heaven. He becomes Lord Brahma. They offer him to be a Brahmin on Maharloka. The simple life. Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta Maharaj always tells the story. He says, when I first came to Krishna consciousness, my only possession was my bead bag. And those were the happiest days of my life. My bead bag. And it's not a joke. When I came to the temple, we didn't have our own clothes. It was a common laundry, and then it was washed, and you'd get something. And they didn't have enough kurtas. So if you got late, you wound up with a dhoti and a Hawaiian shirt or a poncho or some kind of weird thing. But that's simplicity. I took lunch at Jack's, where I used to stay. And it's really beautiful because Jack's got into gardening. And he made this huge, beautiful garden. They're even growing grains. And there's just so many flowers. And then you go to see those deities. He has the puñja-rūpo, and she's making such beautiful clothes for each. Each has a different dhoti of the puñja-rūpo and the flower arrangements. And you can see Jack's hankering, man, just a simple life. Growing your own, he loves the garden. He's expert at it, growing your own food and flowers and just, wow, maybe one day we'll go out to the country and simple life. I had this one godbrother from New York. He was like super New York, like super. And he was in Vrindavan, and he had a window in his room in the building, and he put the New York City skyline. We are conditioned to certain things that cause us misery. But he's so simple everywhere. He doesn't, he's not even interested in it. Somehow, by God's will, he keeps on being offered these positions. And what he likes about the positions is the access he gets to God. Because Brahma is with the Mahapurush. We'll see. He's going to go to Brahma-loka. And the Mahapurush is instructing him. Love from teachers called anugraha, mercy. And what's the greatest mercy? You don't have knowledge. Here's this knowledge. That's the greatest mercy. So he sees Brahma being educated. He sees the familiar in relationship between Indra and Upendra. He sees that. But he's always basically, kind of sleeping on the floor. Yeah, let me say something very nice about Srila Dhanurdhara Swami. And the Dhanurdhara Swami once told me this is his success, is his simplicity. Because you would go to Chopati, and I visited, and he'd take me to billionaires, like the billionaires, and they're sitting on the floor. When he went to the wedding of the daughter of Mukesh Ambani, like one of the 5 or 6 richest men in the world. He has 600 servants in his house in Mumbai. 600 servants in his house in Mumbai. It's like a skyscraper at oneself. and and marries somebody else from another family who was even closer to Radhanath Swami. So when he came in, they were all, this Mukesh Ambani, like, oh my God, like Radhanath Swami's here, right? And then they had a ceremony where Kastuba was telling me this, where they bring respected guests up two at a time on a little platform, and they shower flowers on him. So he was brought up with Hillary Clinton. And then he walked down with her, and I think they're both from Chicago or something. And then he was sitting across the dinner table from her, and she was next to Mamati Banerjee, the head, and he said they were like little girls, like talking about Radhanath Swami, you know. But he lives in the brahmachari ashram and sleeps on the floor. He has his own room and his own little toilet shower or something, but lives simply. Very, except in Bhakti Center, lived in the brahmachari ashram. I think now he's my age, nearing 75. Sometimes for your health, you have to take a little bit more facility, but the simplicity and Gokumar was so simple. He would never stay like in the palaces or the kings, and then he would become tired from it. And he would be attracted to these places because he would have association with God, but not, we discussed, it couldn't manifest that aspect of themselves as his friend in that environment. This is the thing. So anyway, this, and the other thing is, he has no knowledge. He doesn't know anything. He's never heard of Tapaloka. He's never heard of this. He's mukti. What the hell is mukti? Mukti? I don't know what mukti is. So the discussion was his lack of knowledge an advantage or a disadvantage? And the whole 1 hour that we were talking, we're going back and forth. It appears, it depends what knowledge he was lacking and what they were referring to. It appears Aishvarya Gyan. He didn't have so much knowledge of God. Because if he had knowledge of God when he was there and with Mahapurush, yes, I'm here, I'll stay here. If he was with Upendra Vamana, oh, I'll stay here. He was attracted to it, but there was something deeper. This is Ragmarg. He was pulled not by his understanding, but by his heart. Of course, I was saying, well, it seems that it was an advantage and disadvantage, because the disadvantage is that he kept on going to all these places. If he had read Prabhupada's books, he would have went directly there. I was arguing like this. But the references, I'm still not convinced. It's an ongoing conversation, but it was blissful. Discussing with a Vaishnava that caliber, going back and forth, and what we're trying to understand. So anyway, now he was on Mahaloka with these great rishis, and they're performing sacrifice, and God, as Yogeshwar, the Lord of Sacrifice, was appearing in all these hermitages, and it was ascribed his attractiveness, and that would pacify him, but it wouldn't be a permanent manifestation of God. It would be when the yajna was there, and then he'd hanker for Jagannath, because He's always there. He never fails his devotees. You go in every day, he's there. And he has this satisfaction and dissatisfaction. The satisfaction is I'm with God, it's so beautiful. The dissatisfaction is I'm remembering Braja. I'm remembering this sweetness, which seems more, the sweetness which seems more congruent with his heart, which he's becoming attracted to this mantra. And this happens to us to a certain extent, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra to a certain extent. I don't think we'd ever be satisfied, even in a very high way. I think we'd be satisfied with a Vaikuntha type purity. But in the back of our mind, the simplicity, the sweetness of Braj, so then there's a day of Brahma, there's a devastation and everything drowns. and Mahaloka is near Janaloka, and they can kind of go on Janaloka where there's another, where it's kind of the same almost, but it's not in the universal devastation. But he likes Mahaloka because of the presentation of these yajnas and the manifestation of God. But his greatest separation is always from Braj. So he's the simple Braja Bhakta. Happiness is a heart filled with devotion. That simple attraction. And then somehow I guess it subsides and he goes back to Mahaloka. And another theme, everywhere he is, there's someone that shows up, and they show up, of course, by God's will, but it also indicates that even these great sages in Brahmaloka and Tapaloka and Mahaloka, they all seem to, at some time, they travel to give their mercy, to purify people. There seems to be some heart-opening necessity of compassion in spiritual practice, even when you get deep and meditative and intimate, there's some sense. And even, Bhakti Siddhanta said in Vrindavan, there's beggars, you should give them coins. Otherwise the heart can become hard if in the face of suffering, there's not some feeling, even though the highest is to give knowledge. And in the 20th chapter of the Sikshastakam, and I found this verse after Lord Chaitanya is completely absorbed in like bhav of Radha bhav and in the meditation. One verse, he goes through the night and he's just meditating all through the night on one verse, and he's so absorbed. And then this verse comes, which is confirmed by Hari Parshad. I didn't know that. I had this sense it doesn't fit, but it says Rups and listen, Rups and not, and the Nam Sankirtan is the supreme means of deliverance. I said, why is this verse coming here? I had my own opinion. Hari Parshad referenced something else. Someone else had some opinion. But it had something to do with Radharani's, in her bhav, in her full maturity of prema. It has a compassion to it. So anyway, what happens now in Mahaloka, then was it Mahaloka now? They're on top of Loka. 1 second, I have to go to the verse. It gets so many confusing with all these lokas. Let me read back a few verses. When I returned to Mahaloka, I chanted my japa in seclusion. Chanting made me morose with desire again to see the land of Vraja. See, that's why I thought the ignorance was a disadvantage, because he doesn't know that that's where his Madan Gopal deity is. So he's separated from it, but he doesn't know that that's where it is. I'm going to bring that point up. But then the Supreme Lord would appear, the object of sacrificial worship, the ocean of mercy. He would call me with love and sportingly eat what I brought before him. Then the intimacy. He would then dispel my distress. And with the hope of being with him, I could not go anywhere. So he was again satisfied. And once arrived from a higher planet, his form surrounded by, he was dressed, then this is the Sanat Kumar. And another theme, every place he goes, someone comes who the people on that planet begin to worship. And then he's thinking, well, these are higher people, they may have this object of Madan Gopal, the Supreme Lord, because my guru told me, here, take this mantra. This is the mantra that manifests the Supreme Lord. And he begins to search for him. He appeared to be a 5 or 6-year-old boy. So, Vahaya Yagya Karmani Bhaktyotaya Maharshibi Pranamya Dhyana Nishto Sao Yogeshvara Vararchita. The great sages put aside their sacrificial rituals, stood up with devotion, bowed down to the boy who was absorbed in meditation, and worshipped him as if he were the Lord of sacrifice himself. So this is Bhrigu Muni. They're honoring this boy. Yata kaman gate tasmin maya prishta maharshaya Kutradya katamo vayam bhavadbir vachita katam. After that person, as it pleased him, went away, I inquired from the Maharshis, who is that and where did he come from? Why is it that you great souls worship him? Purport, the boy was so exalted that no force could impede him from going wherever he wanted. By his own sweet will, he left as suddenly as he come. Seeing this puzzled Gopal, like with these great sages, and comes and goes. It seems he has a superior position. The sages of Mahaloka were worshipful for the demigods. Living in a realm above all other creatures, the sages enjoyed worshiping the Lord of sacrifice in person. Who other than the Lord could command their respect? And why had they interrupted their sacrifice to honor their visitor? Sri Maharshaya Uchu Sanat Kumar Namayam Jeshto Smakam Mahatama Atmaramapta Kamanam Adyocharya Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. The Maharshi said that person is Sanat Kumar, the eldest among us and the greatest. He is the first preceptor of the self-contented sages whose desires are always fulfilled, and he is a lifelong celibate. Purport: the chief residents of Mahaloka are sons of Brahma, and Sanat Kumar is their brother, the eldest of Brahma's son. He is better than the other sages because, unlike them, he never entered family life, even on Brahma's request. This answers the question, who is that? So, yeah. Ita ūrdhva-loke tapasam ye visatyasau pratribis tribir anyascha yogindrai swasamai saha. He lives in the world above ours called Tapaloka with his three brothers and with other great mystics who, like him, are masters of yoga. Purport: here the sages answer the question, where did he come from? He is not only one of his kind, for he has three brothers just as great as he is, Sanaka, Sananda, and Sanatan. These four brothers live on Tapaloka, along with other great mystics, including Kavi, Havis, Antariksha, Prabhuda, and Pipalayana. I'm giving 3 or 4 different classes on Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, and I forget which class I gave to who. So if I'm repeating anything, then forgive me. Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta Sheman Yasmin Siddhasukam Prajapatyat Sukat Koti Gunitam Ūrdhva-lokataḥ. The world is attainable only by unbroken celibacy. Its residents, as him retained, flowing upward, feel a constant peace and happiness millions of times greater than enjoyed by the progenitors of the universe. So this is another theme. Each place you go higher has a higher level of enjoyment, material enjoyment. So we discussed this, myself and Dhanurdhara Swami. Why? These are Tapaloka. It has a higher level. Because what happens is there's a desire to serve. And when you want to serve, you offer the best. The only thing is Krishna can only give you to the capacity that it doesn't allure you to sense gratification. So the more elevated, Radharani is Mahā-bhav Sarup, she's the form of the highest love, which means she has the best of everything. So somehow or other, every place millions of times greater than the next. And people see it in terms of service. Purport: Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is the great vow of lifelong restraint from sex. One may begin observing celibacy after years of indulgence, or one may practice strict celibacy as a brahmachari for the years of one's study and then enter regulated married life. Both kinds of celibacy are very beneficial, but only the rare person with exceptional determination to refrain from all forms of sex for his entire life is allowed to become a resident of Tapaloka. Life on Tapaloka is all auspicious. There is no trouble from the heat of periodic annihilations and no need to migrate to a higher region. On Tapaloka, the cataclysms of the annihilation of the 3 worlds go unnoticed. The Yogeshvara on Tapaloka enjoy undisturbed peace and satisfaction. So in each place, it's still the material world. There's always, in other words, they're completely satisfied because they're completely absorbed. But ultimately, it's temporary. Abrahma, Bhuvanal Loka, Puna Avitanojana, from the highest planet to the lowest. Yeah, Avitanojana, you have to come down. So there's always something. Okay. I'm doing so many classes that it's really enlivening, because then I have a greater frame of reference. Chamunajaya, at what point today did you get anything? This is
Hare
always
Krishna,
Haribol.
Hare Krishna Raj. Thank you for class. I love hearing about, I look forward to hearing what your discussion about with the ignorance or not. I love to hear what you guys are going to come up with at the end of it all.
Well, he's going to eventually, he's so enlivened by these discussions, he wants to transcribe them, and he's more technologically savvy. There are things that transcribe things automatically now.
Yeah,
I'm going to get my things transcribed. I'm going to speak to Jai Kishori and see if she'll do that service. Of course,
yeah.
yeah.
I look forward to it. But I was really hearing that there is a through line of the mercy of the great souls and what you were talking about today. It's like you said it's like it's the heart opening necessity of compassion in the great souls to travel to give. And we see this during this whole thing and such a wonderful thing. It's the analogy of the tree with fruit bending down to those of us who don't
Yeah.
have.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's a nice analogy too. Right. The fruits. I always looked at it in terms of humility, but that's a nice analogy in terms of giving.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. That's good.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Raj.
Gail,
Hey, Krishna Maharaj.
hello.
Yeah, couple of things. Well, for one thing, please don't apologize for repeating because no amount of repetition is too much for me. And also, when it comes to Sanat Kumar, as you said, he's just as exalted as his brothers. So I'm wondering why they chose him to focus spotlight on.
Maybe he's the oldest. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
The oldest always has some kind of status. You look in
Mhm.
an Indian family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, just one last thing is I couldn't catch when you were saying, remember you were saying, why was this verse or something put here? That's
Yeah.
when you talked about Hare
Okay, you want me to
Krishna.
explain that?
Yes, please.
That's in the 20th chapter of the last chapter of the Antya-lila. The previous chapter, Lord Chaitanya was informed by a great Acharya that his external mission for coming was complete. It was finished. He spread Krishna consciousness fully. So therefore, it said he doubled down on the mood of separation because
Hmm.
that energy that was consciousness that was going to preaching now
Hmm.
just went directly into the internal reason for his descent, which is to feel the mood of Radharani. And then that was in the 19th chapter. So the 20th chapter, it shows his bhav, and he's practicing Raganuga Bhakti, a very high level, and he's completely absorbed. And one mood, he'd start to quote verses through the whole night, and it just shows he's so absorbed and so lost. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of that deep internal bhav, he says, listen, and he starts to talk about preaching. So it doesn't fit in
Hmm. So
because
you're saying, uh-huh.
it
So you're
doesn't.
saying that he brings that because it's like,
I was
you know,
saying because there's always a sense of gratitude because he's completed his external mission, he's completed his internal mission. So there's a sense of gratitude. And gratitude for what? For something or someone that's bestowed something on one. And that was the holy name. So I thought that naturally he was feeling gratefulness for the holy name. And then he became in that bhav. And what do you do when you get into a bhav? You nourish that bhav by quoting verses that nourish it. And that can go on all night. So then he went into then he said about this verse, and then he said Krishna Vanam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pangas the Parshadam, quoted about the holy name, and then the Shikshastakam came. So this was his bhav. So it somehow didn't fit. And I'm a speculator, Gail, and you know how I am creative and come up with things. And but Hari Parshad, this great scholar in the audience, the next day, he said there's actually an obscure script where some great Vaishnav scholar also said this verse doesn't fit in, so it was confirmed.
And your theory is that he was in the mood of gratitude for having received the holy name.
Yeah, no, for having these feelings of Radharani's love for Krishna. And but how do you get that? The cause is only the holy name. That was the process he used. So I think he's grateful for the holy name. Because the holy name has allowed him to fulfill his external mission, which is to give prema bhakti to everyone, and his internal mission that he should realize that as the highest.
Yeah, I'm also thinking that, because you were saying, why is he all of a sudden talking about preaching? But as you always say, right, when you are experiencing, it's like the other side of the coin of experiencing the sweetness of Madhurya Ras is that you want to share it. That's why, the
Well,
counterpart of
that was the other explanation from Hari Parshad. From that scholar, it had something to do with Radharani's compassion. That's what he said.
Okay.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank
Thank you for coming for so many years, always hearing, even if you now only remain in the Kashvani. Okay.
I'm impelled by the heart.
Anybody else like to say hello today?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Krishna-katha. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for for the lecture.
I
It's so
appreciate it so
interesting.
much. You're so steady. But this is my all-star team here, the people that come so often. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Lal, Braja.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for class.
Shai. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for teaching.
Yeah, it's always great.
Yeah, you're catching a little of that Tuesday, Bob, during your worship, huh?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It was far out last time, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was far out about. I just remember it was far out. But I remember it was like, wow, we're really like discussing things.
It's just so relishing. So relishing.
No. Okay.
Thank you.
Haribo.
Haribo.
See you on Friday.
Yeah, we'll see you Saturday.
Saturday.
What time is that?
I think 5 o'clock. 4 or 5. I can message you afterwards and let you know.
Okay. Well, the vote is going to get ready because I'm not going to stop speaking for a long time, interspersed with kirtan.
Great. I can't wait.
Not going to be pushed around. Keep on going long, and I'm trying to think I may do the birth of Krishna. Read the verses. Prabhupada said, read Krishna book on Janmashtami. You sit through 6 hours, they're reading Krishna book. A little austerity.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see how long I'll last. Okay.
I vote for the Jagannath pastime.
What's that?
I vote for the Jagannath pastime. In depth.
You go for what?
I vote for the Jagannath pastime again, in depth.
What Jagannath pastime?
How come they appear as they appear? They were listening to the their manifestation in that form, the Jagannath deity, Jagannath.
But you want that on Janmashtami?
Yep. It could be part of your going long.
Oh, Gail, you're such a rascal. It's unbelievable. Okay, but fun. And where's your Parivrajacharya daughter now? What continent?
Oh my God. I think Poland.
Poland, huh? Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Garuda. Thanks for the class.
Radhika. Wow. Okay.
Thank
Now I have big festivals at
you.
New Raman Reti, right?
Yeah.
Wow, so
And
many.
now it's on the break of the Krishna house, so
What's that? You'll celebrate it at the Krishna house.
no, it's break in Krishna house, so everyone's away, and that's why on Wednesday I could come for the class. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Thank
Okay, Aibo. All right.
you.
Okay. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha